We quickly got used to Sony's 6-month upgrade cycle, and we expected the company's most recent flagship to arrive back in February. It took 4 extra months, however, until the Xperia Z3 Plus arrived. Now that it's here, it's time to see in what ways it's better than its predecessor. Visually, the Sony Xperia Z3 Plus is almost the same as the Z3. Here it's the one on the right. The design is the same, so are its dimensions. Even the 5.2-inch display is the same size as last year. The few subtle changes include the removal of the docking connector on the left, and the micro USB port now features a capless design and sits easily accessible at the bottom. Another obvious change, the front-facing stereo speakers are now hidden away in the frame border. Unfortunately, they haven't gotten any louder. In our testing, their combined output only scored an average loudness rating, about the same as the Z3. At 6.9mm, the new Xperia Z3 Plus is also thinner, though we doubt that even seasoned Xperia Z3 users will notice the difference. One difference that you can readily feel, however, is that it's now lighter than its predecessor. The Xperia Z3 Plus offers a great screen with rich colors and excellent brightness and contrast. The display is still of 1080p resolution, but Sony claims the panel has gotten brighter. Some might frown that Sony hasn't gone with a QHD display instead, but we consider this screen to be adequately sharp. What we didn't appreciate, however, is the flimsy holder for the nano SIM and the micro SD card. It's a real pain to take them out of the phone, but hey, we're glad there's expandable storage. This is becoming a rarity these days. Much like its predecessors, the Xperia Z3 Plus offers a high resistance to the elements. The IP67 certification means the phone will happily withstand both water submersion and dust of any kind. We found that when wet, the Xperia Z3 Plus screen is more responsive than the Xperia Z3's. For the first time, we see a touchscreen phone which registers touches normally and remains completely usable even when there's water all over it. The Sony Xperia Z3 Plus ships with Android Lollipop, featuring the same UI we saw on the Xperia M4 Aqua. The interface is flat and colorful, and the on-screen navigation buttons have taken after the stock Google ones. The notification area mirrors the stock one found on the Nexus 6, but Sony allows you to customize the toggles, which is very handy. The task switcher is also the Lollipop card style one, but with the inclusion of Sony's small apps that run on top of the UI and can be dragged around as needed. All of Sony's multimedia apps utilize the company's contextual side menu drawers. It's a clever way of keeping the organizing options out of sight, and we really appreciate them. Sony's LifeLog app is something we also enjoyed using. Not only does it show your daily step count and expended calories, but it also goes further by recording your interaction with the smartphone itself. For instance, you can see how many minutes you've spent playing games, listening to music, or browsing the web. Arguably the most significant upgrade the Xperia Z3 Plus brings is the new Snapdragon 810 chipset. It sure keeps things running without a hitch, but it does heat up under considerable load. Our benchmarks showed comparable results to the ones by the other smartphones using the same chipset. If it wasn't for the more powerful Exynos chipset found in the Samsung Galaxy S6, the Xperia Z3 Plus would easily be one of the best phones we've tested. The battery capacity on the Z3 Plus has suffered slightly compared to the Xperia Z3 due to the slimming down process, but Sony still claims 2 days of battery life, though we hadn't had the chance to test that ourselves. There's also Quick Charge 2.0, which allows you to top up 60% of your battery capacity in just 30 minutes on a charger. One thing that hasn't changed compared to the Z3 is the main 20-megapixel camera. We like it that the camera lens still doesn't protrude despite the phone's profile being slightly slimmer now. It also still has the same f2.0 aperture to help in low light shots. Just like before, for low light photography, the camera can also make use of ISO 12800, which is indeed a rarity among smartphones, though would still take optical image stabilization over that. Camera modes on the Xperia Z3 Plus are plentiful, but to begin with you choose either Superior Auto or Manual mode. Superior Auto automatically recognizes the scene and adjusts the camera settings accordingly. It does a great job but produces 8-megapixel images from the 20-megapixel sensor. They have less noise and smaller file size, but we always felt we were missing the benefits of the full resolution. Manual mode, on the other hand, gives you just that, full 20-megapixel photos. You also gain the option to adjust exposure compensation and white balance, but you lose the automatic scene adjustment. The camera samples we took show great results regardless whether it's 20-megapixel or 8-megapixel stills we were taking. Compared to the Xperia Z3, the Z3 Plus produces slightly warmer photos with more laid-back processing. That means there's less sharpening and more noise, but we kinda like those images better than the ones from the Z3. As before, the Z3 Plus can capture both 1080p and 4K videos. The level of detail perhaps isn't quite up there with the best smartphones on the market, but it is still good. 4K videos, for instance, show the expected high level detail and have smooth frame rates. Now that Sony is almost ready to release the Xperia Z3 Plus, the crop-up flagship phones in the first half of 2015 is all set. The Xperia Z3 Plus may not be a huge improvement over the Xperia Z3, and it may not offer a QHD screen, but the fast Snapdragon 810 chipset and the design improvements such as the capless USB port may be enough to hold fans over until the Xperia Z4 eventually arrives later this year. The Xperia Z3 Plus is also the go-to waterproof smartphone at the moment, as there is hardly any flagship competition right now. Adding to the water protection, the stereo speakers, the ample 1080p screen, the very good 20-megapixel camera, and the expandable storage all add up to shape what we would consider to be an excellent package. However, only time and pricing will tell whether the Z3 Plus can beat its menacing rivals and capture users' hearts.